Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Rogue Company In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be going over the basics of the game for new players and doing a guide on one of my favorite characters, Scorch. In the very beginning of the video, I want to let you know that this video is sponsored by Hi-Rez Studios. They partnered with me to do a sponsored In Depth in order to get good content for new players and to help announce the fact that Rogue Company just went free to play today. That's right, Rogue Company is now free to play. You can download it with the link down there below in the description on PC, PS4, Xbox, and even Nintendo Switch with crossplay for all of those platforms. So pretty much any way you game, you can get Rogue Company for free, and I'd appreciate it if you would download it for free to help me be a good sponsor and help these deals keep on coming. And since I'm a greedy little YouTuber snake, I'm going to double dip and say that if you decide to buy microtransactions in the game, use the Epic Games creator code DRIFTORTHEREAL. And I know that a lot of you have actually already played this game based on my past recommendations, and a lot of you are watching me play it on stream or joining me for that matter. So if you don't need to know the basics of this game, I added a timestamp to the top of the screen so you can skip straight to the Scorch guide. But for those of you that are new and curious, let's talk about the basics of Rogue Company. Rogue Company, at its core, is a third-person tactical shooter. There'll be a lot of comparisons to Gears of War and Fortnite, but it has a little bit more CSGO or Valorant kind of vibe to it because it's very tactical, and the most common game modes are mostly one-life modes and bomb defusing. There is a respawn mode, but I don't think that's the most popular or competitive one. By and large, you're playing one life and doing something with a bomb depending on the mode. One of my best tips for new players is don't forget to use the shoulder swap buttons to get better vision on your enemies. You are not permanently bound to right shoulder only. On PC, at least, I can hit E and bounce the camera back and forth between either shoulder, which helps me get better vision on enemies and sometimes sees around corners, which you can definitely do Fortnite and Gears of War style corner peeking. You can see things your character could not, but do keep in mind that enemies can also see you around corners. I forget the second one all the time, and I corner peek, but forget that I'm going to get peeked back and I die. So do keep in mind in a third-person shooter game, the camera position is very important. One unique feature of this game that I happen to like a lot is that when you crouch behind a wall or almost any kind of cover, you will pretty much always be at the perfect height to protect you. All of the walls and covers in this game are designed to be a certain height, such that when you crouch behind them, it's not likely that somebody's going to be able to shoot you from above or below or anything like that. And interestingly, if you're crouched and you aim down sights, your character will stand up a little bit and it'll peek your head and shoulders just above whatever kind of cover. It's almost like Gears of War without sticking to the wall. So if you're crouched behind a box for cover and you aim down sights, you will expose yourself and you can be shot. Of course, that's fair because you're shooting at other people. In the game, you do have a roll ability. It's on a cooldown. It's not as spammable as it may look. I kind of have the cooldown memorized, so I roll a lot. My recommendation is not to just spam the button, but to save the rolls for when you need them. And like any tactical shooter or any competitive game, everybody can hear your footsteps when you sprint. When you slow walk, when you use an ability, or when you use a crouch, not so much. But if you're sprinting all over the map, everybody's going to be able to hear you and know exactly where you're at. The audio design's really good in this game. Aiming in this game is roughly analogous to Fortnite-style bloom aim. You can aim down sights to tighten up the bloom on some weapons, or for quite a lot of weapons, actually, if you're not shooting fully automatic, the first shots will always be perfect, glorious hit scans that just delete people, like the Fortnite update in like Season 5 or 6. And like Fortnite and PUBG, they put a little red X on the screen, so if your character model is going to clip a corner and you're going to shoot a wall or something, the red X will let you know that and let you know not to shoot. Aiming down sights is extremely important, even if the game is bloom-based. A lot of my random teammates don't seem to know this, so please aim down sights to at least tighten up your aim or get the Fortnite precision bloom. And there are a few rare weapons, such as the Medic's assault rifle and the sniper, that can fully aim down sights and be a true like hit scan, like CSGO or Valorant or something like that, with like a perfect ADS, but they're kind of few and far between. Headshots in this game are very important. Depending on the weapon and the balance, they mostly range between 1.4 and 1.5x damage, meaning almost always a couple less shots to kill or some really nasty burst damage. So headshots are the way to go if you can land them. And I want to let you know that melee weapons kill very quickly. You have to purchase these. No characters come with them, but the axe, the katana, all that can cut people up really, really fast. And if you aim down sights with a melee weapon, you'll see this throwing arc, and you can throw a melee weapon, hit an enemy, and it pretty much always one-hit downs them unless they have armor or some very sort of heavy health protection on. One of my best tips is that you should not underestimate melee weapons. You roll up on somebody thinking you're going to spray them with an SMG, and you're going to get beat to death with a baseball bat, or sometimes you just swap out to your melee weapon and chunk it to insta down people when you're out of ammo. The melee system in this game is very, very dangerous. Downed teammates and enemies can be revived. I wish more of my teammates knew what a revive was, but yes, you can revive people that are down. The bleed out time in this game is very fast, and that's my opinion. You usually take a little bit of damage on the way down. You've got between 5 and 10 seconds to pick your buddy up. You don't get to stay down very long, so if your buddies don't pick you up quickly, you're pretty much out. And the most commonly played modes will involve you planting or defused bombs. There's neutral bomb and then roughly Call of Duty search and destroy. So I hope you like those kind of game modes. So there is a respawn King of the Hill control type mode, and every character that you pick in this game is not cosmetic. Every character that you pick up has a passive and active ability, plus a unique set of weapons and a unique set of perks. There's a little bit of weapon sharing and perk sharing between all the characters, but by and large, each and every one of them is very different, very unique, and they have all their own weapons and stuff, so you kind of need to know the balance of them. And like CSGO and Valorant and some of the other games I've compared it to, you earn money by doing things in-game, and then between rounds you can spend that money to upgrade your weapons, buy new weapons, buy perks, whatever. But unlike those games, you don't lose anything when you die, and I think this is really nice. You don't lose any of your stuff after dying, so you can, you know, spend all your money, get stomped or get sniped or picked or something, and then you come back with all the same stuff you spent your money on next round, and it's just fine. And that means that the advantage that you get from good economy is primarily getting ahead of your enemies in spending, and not just totally dominating them and making them broke. Okay, now that the basics are out of the way, let's talk about Scorch. Scorch is one of the most damage-heavy characters in the entire game, and she's one that I like to play quite a bit. She's primarily a close-range burst DPS rogue that harasses enemies by setting them on fire. We're going to take a quick look at her here in the game and all of her loadout and abilities, and then I'm going to be giving you the stats for all of them. So you can see right off the rip here that she is sort of a redhead, and she's got a cybernetic arm, which is going to be important later. Overheat ability sets people on fire. SLC SMG is very similar to an MP7. Arbitrator shotgun is a double-barrel death machine up close, of course. The A3 salvo in Call of Duty terms is going to be like a Raffica. It's a 3-round burst pistol. She does not have a melee weapon. Instead, she has a cybernetic arm that deals extra damage, incendiary grenade and EMP grenade, and a whole set of perks such as run faster after taking damage. You got resistance to explosives, then you've got increased weapon swap and reload speed, you've got additional armor, and you can instantly reload your weapons as soon as you down an enemy, kind of like a COD Zombies perk. And each tier of the weapons also upgrades them, so you get extra range, better handling, better, I don't know, damage, hipfire accuracy, something like that. All the weapons in this game do this. So, and for hers in particular, it's very important to upgrade them to tier 3 to get extra range, because she's kind of a low range rogue. I keep wanting to say champion. It's rogues in this game, but I keep wanting to say champion because I've done that in so many other games. But okay, let's start off with her pistol, which I think is among the best in the game. The A3 salvo pistol's body damage is 39 to 25, and headshot damage is a colossal 59 to 38, which means it can 2-tap to the head. And that's crazy given that it's a 3-round burst pistol. So one solid burst up very close, or 2-tap to the head, and you're done. The A3 salvo has a rate of fire of 181 rounds per minute, and that's an average rate of fire across the entire magazine, because it's an instant really fast burst and then a delay before the next one. So in a sense it's a fast firing pistol, and in a different sense it's a slow firing pistol. Mathematically speaking, this is one of the fastest killing pistols in the game, even without Scorch's fire ability, which we'll be talking about later. This thing can really Shrek people, and it is my personal favorite. The only downside to it is that, like most of Scorch's kit that we're going to talk about later, the one-shot or one-burst potential range is really low, and that at medium and longer ranges, you're going to need quite a few more shots to kill. Uniquely, Scorch is the only rogue that cannot buy a melee weapon, but instead she uses her cybernetic arm, nicknamed Rosie. And Rosie is very odd in a lot of ways. It can be upgraded to burn people when it hits, it can be upgraded to have extra swing range, and it deals 65 damage per swing, which is really high. That puts it up there with the higher melee weapons. Not all the melee weapons deal the same damage. This is in like the top tier of melee weapon damage, and you get that almost as a passive from the get-go. The only downside is that you can't break Rosie off and throw her. All of the other melee weapons in the game you can aim down sights with and throw to go for the one hit. You can't really do that with Rosie. Rosie's kind of stuck on your body because, you know, she's part of you. Next up, I want to talk about her shotgun, the double barrel love cannon. The Arbitrator shotgun can one-tap people within about 6 meters. So within about 6 meters, if you ADS and you hit all your pellets, you're going to one-shot people. It's usually a 2-tap shotgun though. It's usually a 2-hitter quit, pow pow, spam spam, dead dead. And that makes sense because it's a double barrel shotgun. It's kind of designed to be that way. The maximum 2-shot range, the maximum 2-tap range is 14 meters, which is kind of impressive for a shotgun, but I will say at those ranges, you're not likely to be hitting all of your pellets. A more practical 2-tap range would probably be 10 to 12 meters. And the reload time on this weapon is very high at 2.4 seconds. You don't always get time to pull back and do a full 2.4 second reload on the shotgun, so if you're running the shotgun, be sure to run the perk that also lets you reload your weapons faster, or you can become very reliant on your pistol. So I've been playing with other people that love the shotgun on Scorch and use the pistol for all the long range abilities since it's all the long range engagements, since it's one of the better pistols in the game. I generally don't recommend the shotgun with Scorch, not that it's bad, not that you can't use it, but it doesn't synergize well with her ability, which is Overheat, and we'll be getting to that after the weapons. The Overheat ability burns people over time, and you'd think that having a fire shotgun is really cool and useful for that, but it deals so much damage as is. If you're not 2-tapping people with it, you're using it wrong, and I don't need to burn people with it, if that makes sense. Let's move on to my preferred weapon, which is the SLC SMG. This one is basically an MP7, and it's her best primary weapon in my opinion. The SLC stats are seemingly not very good to start off with. Headshot damage is 17 to 12 depending on your range. Body shot damage is 12 to 8, which is miserably low. It's among the lowest in the game, which means that you could take over 10 shots to kill to the body depending on the range, and that is not a very good feeling. However, it does have the second fastest rate of fire in the game at 900 rounds per minute, which is really high. There's only one other gun I saw that has a faster rate of fire, and it's not even tremendously faster at that. So this is a top tier fire rate weapon. When you do the time to kill calculations to see if the rate of fire is going to make up for the low damage, it does and it doesn't. When it comes to headshots, the headshot time to kill is mediocre at best, and that's mediocre compared to other headshot weapons time to kill. So compared to other guns, it doesn't kill much slower or faster than most of them if you're shooting enemies in the head. However, the body shot time to kill mathematically works out to be close to the fastest in the game. I think it's technically the third fastest killing weapon for body shots. However, that third fastest is by a hair. It's like a barely, like fractions, like portions of a millisecond. The number 2 and number 1 are indistinguishably faster. You would never notice in game. You could effectively think of this as one of the fastest killing weapons in the game for body shots, and that's even without the Overheat ability, which we're going to get to eventually, I promise. The optimal or maximum damage range is 9.5 meters, so that's pretty low. You're only going to get that really fast time to kill up close, and your weapon starts dealing its minimum damage at 19.5 meters, which isn't incredibly far away. That's basically medium range in this game, so your damage fall off is really hard on Scorch. The SLC SMG reloads in 1.4 seconds, which is perfectly, totally normal for SMGs, and just pretty average for the game in general, so nothing exceptional about that. So let's talk about her Overheat ability. When Scorch uses that ability, your weapons will burn enemies for every hit. It's kind of like putting fire bullets or incendiary shells on every weapon that you have. Mathematically speaking, it does damage over time in 3 ticks after you've shot somebody. So it'll tick 3 times. It ticks once every 0.15 seconds, so it'll do all of its damage in 0.45 or about half of a second, and it'll deal 5 damage per tick, up to 15 total damage. Now, every time you shoot an enemy, you reapply this. So if you have an extended gunfight where you're barely tickling them at ranges, you're kind of refreshing this over and over and over again. But in most cases in this game, you're either lasering people or not, so the damage over time is sort of a bonus on top of what you've already got. But it is, at the very least, harassing, annoying, problematic, and just gives you free bonus damage regardless of the range you're fighting at. This ability only lasts for 10 seconds, so make it count. You want to pop this and then get your shots on and try to kill people. And in my opinion, the best way to think about this ability is just plus 15 damage to every engagement. As long as you hit them with one bullet, that's plus 15 damage. Multiple bullets, multiple times, multiple refreshes, you can theoretically do quite a lot more, but I like to think about it as a bare minimum plus 15 damage to every fight, or maybe instead of fighting 100 health enemies, I'm basically fighting 85 health enemies, which slightly tilts the balance of the game in my favor. Her passive is kind of the opposite of this. Scorch is immune to fire from all sources. That's from Molotovs, from also enemy Scorches. They can't set you on fire, which is kind of interesting. And I do think it's very useful because a lot of characters in this game have incendiary grenades, and when I'm playing Scorch, I can just run right through those if I want to. So when it comes to economy, shopping, perks, leveling, and a lot of other things, I prefer to upgrade Scorch's pistol to maximum level on round 1. I think her pistol is one of the strongest in the game. It's one of the easiest to work with. It has kind of a tiny mag and the range isn't great, so upgrading all those components on it make it a much better weapon. I usually go all in on the pistol, and I feel like it gives me a really good round 1 advantage, especially with the overheat going on as well. I usually don't upgrade the robot arm Rosie. It can do some neat things. I can add extra range to it. I can make it burn when it hits people, but by and large, I think it's almost like a second passive. It's really good right where it is. It deals a lot more damage than a regular melee, so I'm comfortable just leaving Rosie alone and just letting her be there as sort of a free passive, a free backup melee weapon, something I just don't have to spend money on. When it comes to kitting the weapon, I'm usually choosing the SLC SMG over the Arbitrator shotgun, at least most of the time. There's some maps and some modes and some types of enemies that the shotgun might work better on, but by and large, I think most people are going to be a lot happier with the SMG, especially how you can apply the fire to multiple people by spraying at them. When it comes to choosing her throwables, I'm a little bit more DPS heavy. I prefer the incendiary grenade over the EMP grenade. There's nothing wrong with the EMP grenade. It can be very tactical if you're playing against enemies that have a lot of plantables, but usually when I'm playing Scorch, my mind is to maximize the DPS, so I'm going for extra fire grenades, extra incendiary, and extra harassment. Of all the perks that she has, there are 3 of them that I think complement her kit the best. The first and most important one is Replenish. It's an extremely expensive perk, but it's totally worth it. Then Evade, and then Tenacity. So basically the way this works, if you got all 3 of these perks, you would modify your character to instantly reload after downing an enemy, which is just great because you burn a lot of bullets, and if you down somebody, you just instantly, like a zombies perk, pop magically bullets back in your mag, back to shooting, and that's great. You get plus 10% movement speed after taking damage, so if somebody shoots at you mid-gunfight, you just get this boost in move speed. And you get a 40% resistance against explosive damage, which can be quite helpful. That can make you immune to fire, and not quite immune, but damage resistant to explosives while outputting a lot of damage yourself. And when using this particular setup, in my opinion, Scorch deals a lot of damage, perhaps the most in the game. She's resistant to fire, resistant to explosives, she can move around really quickly mid-fight. If she downs somebody, she instantly reloads and is ready to go for the next target. Scorch is very aggressive, very mean, very high DPS, and very effective running this setup. However, it's not without flaws, or the character is not the rogue. Scorch has 2 main weaknesses. Number 1 is that all of her weapons have short ranges. The pistol range is not impressive, the shotgun range is not impressive, and the SMG range is not impressive. She cannot compete with assault rifles, LMGs, snipers, and really long-range fights. You need to be able to get close to people with Scorch, or she's not very useful. And she does not have the ability to have the one-hit melee throw. She cannot throw her arm like other characters can throw axes, katanas, and bats, so you don't have that sort of desperate melee flick throw option available to you. You just kind of don't. So you're limited in that capacity. Even though you don't necessarily have to buy a melee weapon, you don't get the one-hit ability. And I still think Scorch is a great character. She's one of the ones I play all the time. I just try to get close to people to mitigate the range problems. Guys, that is all for this first episode of Rogue Company in Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe to this channel, and you can click the link down there below in the description to download Rogue Company for free today and make me look like a fantastic sponsor. Drifter out.